Good morning. Welcome to Convince Me from the Action Network. We are running it back, people. Another pregame show with all the news and info you need, presented by 888sport. That's right. We got a sponsor. We're all grown up now. Real show, real news, real picks, real sides, real totals, real props. First, from the Action Network news desk, Darren Ravel, Katie Rich Creek. Joining me, my experts, Chris Raybon, Matthew Friedman, Sean Corner. Everything you need, all the data, all the picks, all the analysis. It's in the free Action Network app. Sean Corner, fire away, brother. Give me your first player prop.
Well, this sucks because this is your boy, right? I'm taking the under 1.5 passing touchdowns by Mitch Trubisky today. I got it at minus 120, but I would bet this down to minus 150, minus 160 range. But I mentioned last week how it was time to start fading this Bears offense after they put up 30 plus points in 4 straight games. I mentioned, they actually faced the 3 worst defenses in terms of DVOA over that stretch. And then, they hit a brick wall against the Packers and only put up 16 points. So I think they're going to have a much tougher test this week against the Saints, who ranked second in DVOA. The Bears team total is right around 19. So that translates to exactly 2 touchdowns for the Bears. So, once you factor in rushing touchdowns, defensive, special teams touchdowns, which, the Bears are more likely to do than other teams, I come out with a 1.3 projected touchdown for Trubisky, and that translates to a minus 170 true line for him. So like I said, I would bet this down to minus 150 or minus 160.
Well, look, obviously, I think this is brilliant because I have no faith in Mitch Trubisky. And in the middle of the Washington football team Bucs game last night, I'm wondering myself, how have the Bears not already called Washington to trade for Taylor Heinicke and get him on the field today? Because that's what I'm hoping. Also, Darnell Mooney out for the Bears. He's been the number 1 target for Mitch Trubisky. So I have no qualms with your pick. And by the way, normally we do our Action Network exclusive Sunday Night Football prop contest off of your prop, but there's not much people can guess with 0, 1, 2 touchdowns. So we are going to move it down to Baker Mayfield and Raybon. He'll be coming up after Matthew Friedman, who yesterday convinced me that Peyton Barber under rushing yards was the right side. I didn't choose it, but I believed it, and that turned out to work out okay. Friedman, nice job, buddy.
Thanks, Chad. It's nice to hear some positive words from you for a change.
Listen, you were so spot on yesterday in your Washington football team assessment that I couldn't help but think sometimes maybe he knows something. Maybe the new year has brought in some new insight. Maybe I want to turn the page on our relationship. Maybe I just thought for once you did something good. I don't know. Let's continue the streak.
A new year, a new Friedman. Chad, I'm going to give you a little bit of a break now before I get to bashing the Bears later. But now I will go with Mark Andrews over 56.5 yards receiving. I don't know if you remember in our first live show of the season, that was the prop I highlighted, the Mark Andrews over, and I'm going back there again today. Andrews is the true number 1 receiver in this offense. Since the week 7 bye, he has 28% of the team's targets. And since his week 14 activation from the COVID list, he has 33% of the targets. And these aren't cheap targets. Over the past month, Andrews has been targeted 10.2 yards down the field on average. You compare that to Marquise Brown, who is, the deep threat on this team. Brown has only 9.8 air yards per target. So these are quantity and quality in targets that we are seeing. And he has the matchup. The Titans are dead last in the league against tight ends, number 32 in pass DVOA against the position. And the total for this game is the highest, easily the highest on the slate, 54.5. So we could see a very back and forth game with both teams getting up the field all day. I love Andrews at 56.5. I think this should be 10 yards higher.
I freaking love it. I love that play. I love when Mark Andrews is on the field for Lamar Jackson. I think he's been the best safety valve that he has all year. And honestly, what has been a very inconsistent year for Lamar Jackson. But the contest for today is going to be on Chris Raybon's prop. You are going to reply to at Action Network HQ with the total number of yards you think this player is going to pass for. Raybon, tell the people, tell me, convince me
So, Chad, I'm going with Baker Mayfield under 238.5 passing yards. I think this is about 15 too high. I have it at 223. In 5 career starts against the Steelers, Mayfield has never passed for more than 196 yards. So he's never even passed for 200. Of course, we know the Steelers are number 1 in pressure rate. Mayfield is 33rd in passer rating under pressure this year. He's 34th in completion rate under pressure. And the Steelers have allowed more than 238 yards in only 3 of their last 12 games. So this is just a brutal matchup for Mayfield. He doesn't have his play caller. I think this number is way too high.
All right. Number 1, if you want to win some real money, go reply to @Action Network HQ with the total number of passing yards you think Baker Mayfield will have tonight against the Steelers. Number 2, every time you say the words under pressure, I think of David Bowie, but I'm not going to sing it because yesterday when I used the word "tude," you told me I was old. Number 3, I know one of you, and I can't remember which one, wrote about Jarvis Landry and his under receiving yards prop. Am I mistaken in that?
No, I did. Yeah. So I do love Raybon's call. I was the one that wrote the Landry under.
All right. So give me some correlation here, Sean, because I like Raybon's prop too, but I love Friedman's prop.
Like I said, I'm already in line with Raybon here. I think the Browns offense is in a really tough spot today, and it remains to be seen if they're going to have any more offensive linemen ruled out. So I think Baker's an easy under, and I do agree with Freeman. I think this Titans-Ravens game is going to be a high-scoring game. I think Andrews will see a ton of yards, so I would say parlay them with the Trubisky prop too. I don't know why you're not attacking that one as well, but I love all 3 of our props today.
I do love the Trubisky prop too, and I love the way you sort of did the math for me and said you liked it at sort of certain percentage. I think that's great. I'm going with Mark Andrews, and it's partially correlated to something else that I want that we're going to talk about later in the show. But I'm going with Mark Andrews. I'm going with Matthew Freeman. I'm continuing my current love affair with his picks and my newfound respect for him and his choices. Mark Andrews over 56.5 receiving yards. Matthew Freeman, way to go. It is time for News on the Eights, brought to you by 888sport and Darren Ravel.
It actually is 11:08, so I'm very impressed with us. I will say that I am going to tell you about the Ravens Titans, now up to -3.5. Of course, started at 3. 88% of the handle at 888. 88% of the handle at 888. I'm not joking. I'm not doing that for sponsorship. That is real, folks, on the Ravens, -3.5. Less so at other books, 65% at PointsBet, 73% at FanDuel. But that is the largest side or total of the day. And if I know this is not on the script, Chad, but I think we need this. Tony Elliott was out as the Clemson offensive coordinator, and Trevor Lawrence looked like a disaster. I know Raybon mentioned it. Can we just have a quick, I know this is not in the script, but a quick talk about what it means for Stefanski being out?
I think it's a great question. Raybon, why don't you take that first? What is your thoughts on Stefanski being out today?
I think it's big in this spot, and I'll get into this in a moment. But first time starting quarterback since 2002 in the playoffs, are just 13-32 against the spread, and even worse straight up, against more experienced quarterbacks. So the fact that you have a guy like Stefanski who went to the playoffs last year with the Vikings, and this is a young Cleveland team that's inexperienced. I think it hurts, even more than it would maybe a guy like, say, a Ben Roethlisberger or somebody like that. So I do think it's big. And the 1 game sample we have of a team missing their head coach, Detroit was, I think, like a 12-point underdog, and thought maybe they could keep it close a couple weeks ago, and they just got completely steamrolled to the point where there was like 6 different quarterbacks played in that game. That's how much garbage time there was. So it's definitely a concern.
All right, well, let's get to the sides because Darren raises a good question, and we're going to have to talk about what's happening with Pittsburgh and Cleveland and the Sunday night football game. But let's start with the side. Sean Corner, what is the side you want to convince me of?
Well, I'm going against the public here, according to Darren. I'm loving the Titans at +3.5 today. One of the hidden advantages they have is they will have 15,000 fans today, roughly 15,000 fans. So they have a slight home field advantage, which is huge. especially this season. But, I agree with Friedman. This is going to be a very high-scoring game. I'm not here to convince you that the Titans defense will stop Lamar Jackson today. But I think the Titans offense, they're capable of either a leading or trailing game script. So if they're able to trap the Ravens into a trailing game script like we saw last year, that's where the Ravens can fall apart. So I would have this game closer to a pick 'em because I think it's that close. I've been hard on Ryan Tannehill throughout the year, but I have finally come around. His 2019 season was not a fluke. He ranked second among quarterbacks in EPA per attempt in 2020. Lamar Jackson was right around 13 or 14th. So I'm taking the better quarterback today. There, I said it. So I just love the Titans because they, like I said, if they get the lead, they can give it to Henry. They can keep their defense off the field. But even if they fall behind, I have full faith in Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis to get them back in the game. So if you take this bet, you'll never feel out of it.
Wow. You just said something extraordinary. Hot take alert. Sean Corner saying Ryan Tannehill is the better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. Friedman, what say you, man? Can you go 2 for 2?
Maybe. I mean, you're not going to like this, Chad. Last week, I offered you the opportunity to please the football gods by betting against your beloved Bears, but you refused, and that angered them. And now they demand a tribute. So if you want your Bears to have any chance of winning this game, you must bet against them. I don't make the rules. I'm just the messenger here. I'm telling you that the pigskin deities want to see you on Saints -10, -10.5, wherever this is. Chad, I don't know if you know this, but according to my fancy numbers, Mitchell Trubisky is not good. He is a statistical bully. He beats up on puny defenses, but whenever he faces a muscular unit, he backs down in a big way. With head coach Matt Nagy, Trubisky has just 175 yards and 0.75 touchdowns passing against top half pass defenses. And those numbers just get worse the better an opposing pass defense gets. Against the top 10, 145 yards and 0.44 touchdowns per game. Against the top 5, 128 yards, 0.25 touchdowns. And the Saints are number 3 in pass defense DVOA. This is a quarterback-driven league, and the Bears do not have the quarterback to keep up with the Saints defense. And then on offense, the Saints get back running back Alvin Kamara, wide receiver Michael Thomas, and all-pro punt returner / slot receiver Deontay Harris. The Saints are going to put up points. This has already moved to 10.5, 11 at some books. I would grab the -10 while you can, but if you like the Saints, I think you could bet them up to 12.5.
Wow, you dropped so much good stuff there. I can't disagree with anything. And if I'm siding towards the Titans right now, it's only because I just think the Titans have a better number and there's more value in betting the home underdog at +3.5. To be honest, I already bet him at 3 and I feel sick that I didn't wait and I got anxious because I saw the 3. But because I saw it moving from 3.5 down to 3. So I can't argue with anything you're saying. Bless you for calling Mitch Trubisky a statistical bully, because I don't think anybody has ever called him a bully. And I think that might help his confidence. And if anything, maybe if he hears this show today, he will think, I am a bully. I did find out this morning, my 14-year-old texted me this morning to let me know that Mitch Trubisky watches The Last Dance before every game to get himself into the Michael Jordan mindset. It has not helped. Chris Raybon, what do you got for me?
Well, first of all, Chad, I'm wondering why your 14-year-old is texting you. Why are you not in the same house fathering your children, Chad Millman?
Listen. I've given up on the parenting during COVID. There's just he's 14. My other kid's 17. There's nothing left to do but just get him out of the house. And sometimes he'll text me, he's in his bedroom, I'm in the kitchen, I'm prepping for the day. And he's just I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to get out of my bed. I'm just going to let him know that I'm thinking about him. I'm thinking about the Bears. I'm thinking about the day that we're going to spend together watching the Bears lose. Raybon,
okay. That was believable. But in all seriousness, bet against the Cleveland Browns with Baker Mayfield here, because again, the matchup is terrible for him. He struggles against pressure. He's never thrown for 200 yards against Pittsburgh. Back in week 6, I believe it was, on this very show, the Steelers were mere 3-point favorites over the Browns in Pittsburgh. And I told you to take the Steelers, and they won 38-7. Baker Mayfield turned the ball over in that game, leading the points for Pittsburgh. Again, just a really tough spot for the Cleveland Browns. First time playoff starting quarterbacks going against more experienced ones, just 14-32 against the spread. I would take this up to 6.5. So love the Steelers -6 against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, and look, this number, I think this morning in some spots dropped to 5.5. I have no idea why. This game, when it opened at 3.5, and then the news about Kevin Stefanski and the COVID stuff came out, it jumped up to 6. I'm surprised it actually never got to 7. And I'm very surprised it's dropping down to 5.5. It kind of makes me wonder, like, what do professional bettors know about the Browns that we're not seeing? Because everything you've said, the pressure rate, the lack of coaching, the precedent with how these teams played each other. By the way, how these teams played each other in the last week. Don't forget the Browns, 11 wins this season, negative point differential. They got outgained. I listened to you and Stuckey on the Action Network NFL podcast from Thursday. They got outgained by the Steelers with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback, right? Like, this team is an 11-win team that is winning by sort of wits and wisdom, not necessarily by the performance of its quarterback. So I can't argue with this. Has anybody heard anything? Raybon with the Steelers, Friedman with the Bears, Corner with the Titans at +3.5. That should make me think one of those bets is better than the one I heard from you guys.
Chad, I'll just say in full disclosure, I like both of their bets better than mine. I was the last guy in the outline, so I just had to take what was available. So I like both of their bets better than mine. But just because Raybon questioned your wisdom as a parent, Raybon who doesn't have a child, questioned your wisdom, you should go against Raybon, go with Sean.
Matthew Friedman is my son.
That's where I get the good looks from.
Listen, I don't think Raybon is ready for parenting. He can barely get into meetings on time. He can barely respond to Slack within like 12 hours of being sent a message. God forbid he had to respond to someone in need in that exact moment. I'm just thrilled that I taught my kids how to text so I could respond to them directly.
As the second oldest parent on this, I would agree on that call, Chad.
Yes. And I'm going to go with the Titans at +3.5. I just love the value there. I love a home team as a dog with a very good quarterback who I agree, Sean Corner, is not a fluke. But the truth is I love the Steelers in this spot too. I just got to choose one. Katie Rich Creek, can we hear you?
I really hope so. I'm seeing my box light up yellow, so seems good. Okay, so I have a quick trend in favor of the pick you just made. Underdogs went 3-0 yesterday against the spread, which means wildcard underdogs are now 14-1 against the spread since 2017. And according to our Action Labs data, which stretches back to 2003, wildcard underdogs are covering at a 56% rate.
But how about wildcard underdogs when they don't have a coach and their quarterback is terrible under pressure? It makes me like the Bears even more. I cannot side with Matthew Friedman. Let's talk about some totals, folks. Corner, you're up first.
Well, I'll just pick up where Raybon left off. I agree with his analysis on the Bears offense being in trouble. To be fair, I think without Stefanski, they should be able to have the first couple of drives gamed out. So maybe, take them first quarter if you want to be sneaky, but it could fall apart once Van Pelt has to start calling plays more in the game flow. I think that's where the Browns are going to struggle. They'll be without Joel Bitonio today. Ranked 6th in PFF grade among guards. That's a huge loss for them. It sounds like Jack Conklin and Wyatt Teller should play, but I mean, if one of those guys is out, that's even more trouble. And they're facing the number 1 ranked DVOA defense in the Steelers. So I don't expect the Browns offense to be able to put many points. The only chance they have today is to lean on the run game, and hopefully their defense can at least slow down the Steelers. Denzel Ward is out. That's not ideal going up against a team like the Steelers with 3 quality wide receivers, but it does sound like safety Ronnie Harrison should be able to play, which is huge. So I think, if anything, they'll be able to keep the Steelers in check, but even if they aren't, the Steelers are going to turn into a more run-heavy, conservative game plan in the second half, and all of that leads to the under here. I love the under 47.5. 47, again, that's one of the key numbers when it comes to total, so I would only take this down to 47.
47.5 on the Browns Steelers under. The one thing that worries me about that, the Steelers are a terrible rushing team. Matthew Friedman, what's your total?
I'm going Titans, Ravens over 54 and a half. Chad, over the past 2 years, almost nothing in the NFL has been as dependable as the Ryan Tannehill over. And that's easily where I'm going today. I normally don't bet the over on outdoor games, especially in the postseason, but I must make an exception here. With Tannehill and running back Derrick Henry, the Titans have an explosive offense. They're number 4 in the league with 30.7 points per game. They can score in a hurry. And as Sean talked about, whether they are leading or whether they are trailing, they have the type of offense that can score points. And then on defense, they are absolutely horrible. They rank number 29 in defensive DVOA, and that combination of great offense and bad defense causes a lot of their games to go over. As for the Ravens, their offense over the past month has looked the best it has all season. Lamar Jackson is pretty much back in 2019 MVP form, so I think they're going to be able to do their part to put up points. And in Tannehill's 29 starts with the Titans, the over is 22-6-1, and that includes last year's postseason. At home, the Tannehill over is 11-2-1. I'm betting on points in this game. I think you should take this to 56.5 if you need to, but you're not going to need to.
Wow. I agree with you on the Tannehill thing. Look, we're all suddenly falling in love with Ryan Tannehill, which I don't think is inappropriate. Like, the guy has been lights out, and I agree that over the past 2 years, he has proven he's not a fluke and he's in a great system with Arthur Smith. Chris Raybon, give me your total.
So I'm going a little contrarian here. I think, most people will look at Bears, Saints, and lean toward the over. It's in a dome. That those have usually gone over in the playoffs, but I'm going under 47.5 in Bears Saints. I think it's up to 48 at some books with the news about Kamara and Thomas playing. I like it down to 47. But you look at the Saints, the last 3 games in their playoff history in the Superdome, so in this era with Thomas and Kamara and Old Breeze have gone under the total. And on the other side, you have a Bears team that Mitch Trubisky all year, he hasn't started against a pass defense ranked better than 14th in DVOA, and he got benched against that pass defense. That defense was the Falcons. He's managed to play the bottom 4 pass defenses 3 times. The Saints ranked number 2. I think it's going to be a rude awakening for him. And then you also have the fact that Drew Brees, just 6 air yards per attempt, and Mitch Trubisky over his past 5 games, just 6.3. Both of these quarterbacks are going to throw it underneath. So even if they're a little more efficient than we expect, drives could still take a long time to score. And that's exacerbated by the fact that the Saints and Bears rank 27th and 28th respectively in situation neutral pace on offense. So this is a game that I think at first look, it looks like an over game. I think it's an under game. And I also think there's the possibility that the Bears just don't hold up their end of the bargain at all when it comes to scoring points.
All right, look, the Bears have Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. They don't have Darnell Mooney. They don't have Roquan Smith playing linebacker. And the guy who replaced Roquan Smith against the Packers last week got lit up non-stop. He was lost. He didn't know who to cover. He didn't know what scheme they were in. There were people running by him, and Aaron Rodgers was just making him look like what he is, which is a replacement player. All that said, not uninterested in the numbers you're giving me to convince me, but I've already taken the Bears over. Me and Simon Hunter from the Favorites podcast, my partner, we already like the Bears over, so I can't go against that. I feel it would be inappropriate to the fans for me to be choosing both sides. I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't even need to go to a second round. Freeman's already shaking his head because Freeman knows I'm going with the Titans and the Ravens over. I just love this game, and I can't wait to watch it. And I feel like there's so much enthusiasm to see these two teams play. Now, the flip side is because it seems like everybody is on this over, it feels doomed to fail. But that's what we do. Sometimes you got to take a shot. Darren Ravel, it's time for News on the 8s, brought to you by 888sport. Give it to me.
Okay, not as good this time. We're at 11:25, but we'll still okay with that. Big bets came in. We have $240,000 to win $200,000 on the at BetMGM Ravens -3, And the Saints 200,000 on -10. As you said, we've moved that to -10.5 pretty much everywhere. Haven't seen 11 yet. But and then the only other thing that I'm looking at right now is Steelers again at -6. Now it's down to -5.5. The biggest thing we've seen, PointsBet has an 80% handle on the Steelers. So it seems like even though that line is moving down, there is no sports book that's reporting that the money is on the majority, obviously on the Browns.
Got it. All right. Darren Ravel, thank you for that. Katie Rich Creek, anything else that you'd like to add?
I did have a quick officiating trend, and it supports Friedman's pick for Titans Ravens. Since 2010, games that are officiated by Jerome Boger are 160 to over, meaning overs are cashing at a 63.2% rate and going over by an average of 2.3 points per game. And his games are 12-3 to the over this season.
All right. Here's why I love that you said that. I had no idea you were going to say that, but here's a testament to my parenting. That same 14-year-old son who only communicates with me by text, also when we do watch the games, always points out Jerome Boger, his favorite NFL referee. Swear to God. Anyone who raises a kid who has a favorite NFL referee is doing it right. Take that, Raybon. Here are my final 3 picks. I have been convinced to take Mark Andrews, the Ravens tight end, over 56.5 receiving yards. I have been convinced to take the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5. I've been convinced to take the Titans Ravens over 54.5. Don't forget our Sunday night football prop contest. Reply to @Action Network HQ with the total number of yards you think Baker Mayfield will throw for, the exact number. You will win some cash. Everything we're talking about, the data, the analysis, the picks, available in the free Action Network app. For Chris Raybon, Matthew Friedman, Sean Corner, Darren Ravel, Katie Rich Creek, I am Chad Millman. This has been Convince Me, presented by 888 Sports. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.